Shadow President Elon Musk took over the first meeting of Donald Trump's cabinet and was so obviously in command that Trump himself seemed to get bored and either fall asleep or surf on his phone because, of course, the real president was in the room taking charge. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we've got several clips to talk about in this video. Again, this is the first official meeting of Donald Trump's cabinet, and once again, we see the power dynamic on full display with Shadow President Elon Musk taking charge. And I actually want to play this clip here. It's a silent clip. We'll get into the clips with the unfortunate audio. But notice what Trump does as Elon Musk stands up, takes charge, and the cabinet's eyes and the reporter's eyes are on Shadow President Musk. Trump seems bored or he's falling asleep. I mean, he's just, again, he's like that kid in class while, while the teacher's talking, his attention's elsewhere because he's not really the president for all intents and purposes. And as Fact Post points out, that Shadow President Musk spoke before anyone else in the cabinet at this official cabinet meeting. And Musk is technically not part of the cabinet, right? He occupies no cabinet level formal position, but despite that, he speaks before any of the others. And we're going to play the clip of Trump introducing his boss.
And the DOGE is very important, and Elon is here to give you a summary of what's happening, some of the things they found, some of the horrible things they found, some of the theft and fraud, and we call it waste and abuse, but a lot of fraud, and probably some fraud that we're not going to be able to prove is fraud, but when you hear the names and the places where this money's going, it's a disgrace. But the DOGE.
It's so funny. Trump's stream of consciousness way of speaking, the meanderings. Like he's revealed just in that alone that he has no real oversight of what Musk is doing, no comprehension of their remit, of their processes. They're finding so much waste, fraud, and abuse. I'm going to let him talk about it. And we're probably going to find fraud that we can't actually prove is fraud, which is a big deal, right? It's a big deal if you're calling something fraud. It's been congressionally mandated, congressionally approved, and you're trying to slash the budget, and you can't prove that it's fraud, but you just feel it's fraud. And again, I love watching Elon Musk watch Trump talk, and he's nodding along silently. It reminds me of Game of Thrones. I've referenced that dynamic before. I'll bring it up here as well. But this is Elon Musk standing up to talk.
And that's the way it works. So I'd like to have Elon Musk please say a few words.
Well, thank you, Elon. Thank you, Mr. President. I actually just call myself a humble tech support here because this is actually...
So one of the things about this, believe it or not, there's so much revealed even here too. Elon Musk, yes, is awkward. Yes, he's cringe, but let's be very clear. Musk is 10 times smarter than Trump. There is no question. The IQ disparity between these two men is vast. Musk is clever. He knows, again, on paper, Trump is the president. And in theory, if Trump were to find his spine, find his courage, Trump could eject Musk from the White House, right? So he does everything in his power to flatter Trump, to keep Trump mollified, to keep Trump pacified as he usurps attention and control. So that's why he tries to downplay his level of influence when they're around each other, because he knows Trump is a malignant narcissist and this might provoke him, this might make him skittish. Again, in Game of Thrones, we see similar dynamics play out between de jure rulers, the rulers on paper, and the de facto rulers. Again, we'll get into that. So very clever, even though it's a bit awkward by Musk, but Trump is probably too stupid to catch on. Here's another clip.
So well, is this real? Just go to doge.gov. We line item by line item, we specify each item. So, and I should say, we will make mistakes. We won't be perfect, but when we make a mistake, we'll fix it very quickly. So, for example, with USAID, one of the things we accidentally canceled very briefly was Ebola prevention. I think we all.
We just accidentally, in our hack and slash, burn it all down machete approach, we accidentally deleted congressionally approved Ebola prevention. But thank God we caught it, because then we put it back in. How about you just don't do that? How about you just don't treat this like it's your private company? Because this isn't your private company. This is the federal government of the United States of America, funded by taxpayer dollars for the benefit of American citizens. and it's not your personal toy, it's not your personal fiefdom, or at least it shouldn't be, you should be very surgical, very precise with what's going on. And we've talked about, DOGE's mistakes, their fuck-ups have been littered all over the internet. We've done videos about some. Luke Beasley's done videos about some. Adam Mockler and others. They fired non-essential federal workers. Get out of here. And then it turns out those people had career expertise and were attending to the nuclear stockpile. So then they scrambled to hire them back. Oh my God, I'm sorry, we're so sorry. But it turns out they were missing updated contact information for some of them. That's one example. They accidentally gave administrative privileges to a 20-something DOGE intern who had access to Treasury information, our social security numbers, our home addresses. Oh no, they only have read-only permissions. Yeah, that's bad enough. But no, they were accidentally given administrative privileges where they could change that shit. Just one screw up after another. So Elon Musk has no credibility on this issue. We'll continue.
You could ask me or Elon. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Musk. I just wanted to ask you that President Trump put out a Truth Social today saying that everybody in the cabinet was happy with you. I just wondered if you had heard otherwise, and if you had heard anything about members of the cabinet who weren't happy with the way things were going, and if so, what are you doing to address those any dissatisfaction?
Hey, Elon, let the cabinet speak just for a second. Is anybody unhappy with Elon? If you are, we'll throw him out of here. Is anybody unhappy?
Oh my God. What North Korean style bullshit is this? Does anybody have an issue with our boss? Does anybody have an issue with it? We'll throw you out if you do. And then, of course, they basically give a standing ovation. No, we love Elon Musk. We love this unelected, unaccountable MAGA billionaire. I see. So cringe and pathetic. Like anybody was actually going to accept that as a good faith invitation to voice any sort of disagreements with Musk. Here's another clip.
Mr. Musk.
Go ahead, please. Yeah.
Mr. President, thank you, Mr. Musk. Are there about half of the government employees so far appear to have responded to your request for what they've been doing over the past week? Is there a timeline in place for next moves for people being fired, and when can people expect to see results of that?
Yes. Well, to be clear, I think that email perhaps was misinterpreted as a performance review, but actually it was a pulse check review. Do you have a pulse? Do you have a pulse and two neurons?
It was interpreted as a performance review because that's precisely what you led us to believe. You made it very clear it was a performance review, that they were supposed to justify their jobs by sending you what they did in the past week. That is a form of performance review. Again, this walking it back is so strange, and I imagine it's because of the dissent it created, given that FBI Director Kash Patel and the DOD and I think the Department of Health and Human Services kind of publicly pushed back on this and said, disregard Musk's email. So then Musk, in order to protect his own authority, had to downplay it's not that big of a deal. Yeah, they can push back on it. This was wildly misinterpreted, but another email's coming. Here's Musk following up with why he did what he did and the permission he got from Donald Trump to be more aggressive.
Roughly 1 million employees have responded so far to this email. Does that mean that the remaining 1 million or so federal employees now risk being terminated? And is it your understanding and expectation when you post a directive on X that the cabinet secretaries will follow that order? Because several agencies have instructed employees that this is voluntary or not to respond.
Yeah, well, I guess it was like last week, the president encouraged me via Truth Social and also via phone call to be more aggressive. And I was like, okay, yes, sir, Mr. President, we will indeed do that. The president is the commander-in-chief. I do what the president asks. And I said, can we send out an email to everyone just saying, what did you get done last week? And the president said yes, so it did that. We got a partial response. We're going to send another email. But our goal is...
So again, Musk is having to walk this tightrope because even though he commands influence with Trump, the media, they're asking a fair question, but it risks potential divisions there, which is, so clearly you gave a directive. Do you believe that cabinet secretaries should obey it, given that some cabinet secretaries seem to publicly defy it? So it creates an interesting dynamic that Musk has to very carefully navigate because he still doesn't want to spook Trump. Remember, in theory, Trump at any time could snap out of this trance, find his fortitude, find his courage, and say, Elon, get the hell out of here. Secret Service, get this asshole out of the cabinet office here. Much like in Game of Thrones, the king could dismiss the hand of the king being the king's principal advisor, the deputy king. The hand of the king was permitted to do everything the king could do. He could sentence people to death. He could, raise armies. He could issue commands to other high officers of state. The only thing is the king could overrule the hand. And in Game of Thrones, for much of the series, the king was Joffrey, the sadistic boy king, for those of you who didn't see the show. First 4 seasons, great. Then season 6, 5, 7, and 8 all suck. It's an absolute monarchy. And so Joffrey was technically, nominally, the de jure absolute authority over the land in Game of Thrones called Westeros. But the hand of the king, his grandfather, was the de facto ruler, the power behind the throne, and everybody knew it. Everybody knew it. But they had to walk a tightrope. So Joffrey was intimidated by his grandfather, scared of him, even though his grandfather technically served at his pleasure. And Tywin, the hand of the king, Joffrey's grandfather, had to be very careful. He couldn't publicly undermine Joffrey's authority because it would also bite Tywin in the ass, right? Well, you're shit-talking the guy at whose pleasure you serve. It actually undermines your own authority, right? And so it was a careful balancing act. And that's what you're seeing here. That's what you're seeing Elon Musk do. He recognizes he's got a narcissistic, dumb puppet who could, in theory, cut the strings and kick him out. So he has to walk a tightrope. But you're still seeing this dynamic on full display with Musk presiding over the cabinet, making it very clear that he is first in priority. And also conveying that, yes, when he sends an email out, he expects it to be treated as a directive. So just really fascinating dynamic in play. It's only going to further breed life into the increasingly common perception that Musk is a shadow president or co-president. And everything they do seems to further reinforce that. Trump has done nothing to rebuke or rebuff or refute the notion that Musk has his hand up Trump's ass. And as long as that's the case, we're going to keep talking about it. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.